The transport ship dropped Dr. Hana Kim at the research station 3 hours before the scheduled execution. She did not know this yet. All she knew was that something felt wrong the moment the airlock opened. The station was too quiet. Research facilities usually buzzed with activity, with scientists rushing between labs and the hum of equipment filling the corridors. This place felt abandoned. Hana pulled her bag over her shoulder and walked toward the main deck, her footsteps echoing against the metal floors. She found the station director in his office, staring at a holographic display. He was a tall insectoid being called a Thoraxian. His name was Velthor, and his compound eyes reflected the blue light from the screen. "Dr. Kim," he said without looking at her. "You are 3 months too late." Hana set her bag down. "I came as soon as the council approved my assignment." "What do you mean, too late?" Velthor finally turned to face her. "The Vulcan project has been terminated. The specimens are too dangerous. The adult was relocated last week. The juveniles will be euthanized at sunset." The words hit Hana like a physical blow. She had spent 2 years preparing for this assignment. The Vulcan were apex predators from the ice planet below, creatures that every species in the galaxy feared, 6-limbed, covered in thick fur with crystalline claws that could tear through steel. Their eyes reflected light like mirrors, making them look soulless to most species. But Hana had studied them. She had read every report, watched every recording. She saw something others missed. The Vulcan showed signs of complex social behavior. They cared for their young. They mourned their dead. They were not mindless killing machines. "You cannot kill them," Hana said. "They are juveniles. They have not done anything wrong." "They are predators," Velthor replied. "Every species on this station is prey to them. 3 crew members were injured during the adults' relocation. We cannot take more risks." "Where are they now?" "Lower Containment Bay 7, sealed and under guard." Velthor clicked his mandibles together. "Dr. Kim, I understand your disappointment. But this decision comes from the council itself. It is final." Hana left the office without another word. She made her way through the empty corridors to the lower levels. The containment bays were in the oldest part of the station, where the lighting was dim and the air smelled like recycled metal. She found Bay 7 behind 3 security doors. A bored guard sat at the entrance playing a game on his datapad. He barely looked up when Hana approached. "I am Dr. Kim, the xenobiologist assigned to the Vulcan study," she said. The guard shrugged. "Study's over. Orders are to gas them at sunset. I know. I want to see them first. For my records." The guard thought about it, then unlocked the door. 5 minutes. "And stay behind the barrier." The containment bay was cold. Hana's breath formed clouds in the air. The space was large but empty, just bare metal walls and a force field dividing the room in half. On the other side of the barrier, 3 small shapes huddled in the far corner. They were bigger than Hana expected. Each cub was the size of a large dog, but their 6 legs made them look alien and strange. Their fur was white with gray stripes, perfect camouflage for the ice world below. One of them turned to look at her, and Hana saw its eyes catch the light. Like silver mirrors, the cubs were terrified. She could see it in the way they pressed against each other, in the way they flinched at every sound. These were not monsters. These were children who had lost their parent and did not understand why. Hana made a decision. It was not logical. It would probably cost her career. But she could not watch 3 innocent creatures die because the galaxy was too afraid to understand them. She returned to the guard. "I need to document their physical condition before the termination. Can you give me access to the transport cage protocols?" The guard looked suspicious but handed her his datapad. Hana pulled up the system and quickly memorized the security codes. She thanked the guard and left, already forming a plan. That night, after the station entered sleep cycle, Hana returned to Bay 7. She used the codes to override the locks and slipped inside. The cubs woke immediately, hissing and backing away from her. Hana moved slowly, keeping her hands visible. "I am not going to hurt you," she said softly. Even though she knew they could not understand her words, "I am going to help you." It took an hour to coax them into the transport cage. Hana used food rations she had brought, placing them closer and closer to the cage entrance. The cubs were hungry enough to risk it. When all 3 were inside, Hana sealed the cage and activated its hover mode. Moving 3 apex predators through a space station without being detected should have been impossible. But the station was old and understaffed. Hana knew the cargo routes. She pushed the cage through maintenance corridors that no one used anymore, praying she would not run into anyone. Her quarters were in the residential section, a small room with a bed, a desk, and a bathroom. It was not designed to hold dangerous animals, but Hana had no choice. She deactivated the transport cage inside her room and opened the door. The cubs tumbled out and immediately scattered. One dove under the bed, another pressed itself into the corner behind the desk. The third climbed on top of the storage locker and hissed at her, showing rows of sharp teeth. Hana sat down on the floor and did not move. She let them be afraid. She let them hiss and growl. She just sat there calm and still, until her legs went numb and her back ached. Eventually, exhaustion won. The cub on the locker stopped hissing. The one under the bed peeked out. The one in the corner closed its mirror eyes. Hana finally allowed herself to breathe. She had just committed a crime against council regulations. She was hiding 3 predators that the entire galaxy feared. She had no plan beyond keeping them alive through the night. But when she looked at the 3 frightened cubs, each one just trying to survive in a universe that wanted them dead, she knew she had made the right choice. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Tonight, she would stand guard over 3 lives that everyone else had already given up on. Lieutenant Day Park found her on the 3rd day. Hana had not slept more than a few hours since bringing the cubs to her quarters. She spent every moment trying to earn their trust, offering food, speaking softly, moving slowly. The cubs watched her with those mirror eyes but refused to come close. Day knocked on her door just after morning shift began. Hana felt her heart stop. She looked at the cubs who were hiding in their usual spots, then opened the door just wide enough to see out. "Dr. Kim," Day said. His face was unreadable. "May I come in?" "This is not a good time. I know what you are hiding." His voice was quiet. "The whole station knows the Valken cubs are missing. There is a search happening right now. If you let me in, maybe I can help." Hana had no good options. She opened the door. Day stepped inside and froze when he saw the 3 cubs. The one on the locker bared its teeth. The one under the bed growled low in its throat. "They are terrified," Day said. "They were going to be killed." "I know." Day closed the door behind him. "I was the one assigned to the execution detail. I was glad when they went missing." Hana felt tears burn in her eyes. She had not cried since arriving at the station, had not let herself feel anything except determination, but hearing someone say they were glad made something break inside her. "I do not know what to do," she admitted. "They will not eat enough. They will not let me close. If they stay scared like this, they will get sick." Day moved carefully to her desk chair and sat down. The cubs tracked his movement but did not attack. "What do you know about Earth animals?" "Before we joined the council?" "Some. Why?" "On Earth we had predators too. Big cats, wolves, bears. When their cubs were orphaned, wildlife rehabilitation centers would care for them. They learned that predator cubs need the same things prey animals need: safety, warmth, routine." Hana wiped her eyes. "The galaxy sees them as monsters. The galaxy never had to raise them." Day pulled out his datapad. "I have been reading your research. You think Valken developed their extreme aggression through trauma, through losing parents, through violence, through fear. What if you are right? What if these 3 could be different? Velthor gave orders to find them. When he does, then we need to prove they are not dangerous before he does." Day stood up. "I will cover for you. Tell anyone who asks that I am conducting the search personally, but you need to make progress with them. Fast." After Day left, Hana looked at the cubs. They looked back at her, 3 sets of mirror eyes full of fear and confusion. She thought about what Day had said: safety, warmth, routine. She started by establishing a schedule: food at the same times every day, lights dimmed at the same time every night. She would sit in the same spot on the floor, never approaching them, just being present. She talked to them constantly, her voice a steady rhythm in the quiet room. "You are safe here," she would say. "No one will hurt you. I promise." On the 5th day, the smallest cub, the one who made a clicking sound when it breathed, crept close enough to sniff her hand. Hana did not move. She barely breathed. Click, as she had started calling it in her mind, touched her finger with its nose, then darted back to safety. It was the smallest victory, but it felt like everything. On the 7th day, the second cub, who purred when it was calm, ate from a bowl while Hana was still in the room. Progress. The 3rd cub, who sometimes made a whistling sound, remained the most skittish. But even Whistle stopped hissing at her. Hana started sleeping on a mat on the floor instead of her bed. The cubs seemed more comfortable when she was on their level. She would lie there in the dark, listening to them move around, letting them learn that she was not a threat even when she was vulnerable. On the 10th day, everything changed. Hana was exhausted. She had been surviving on stimulant pills and determination, but her body was giving up. She collapsed on her mat that night and was asleep in seconds. She woke sometime in the deep night to a weight on her chest. Her eyes opened to see Click standing over her, one paw on her shoulder. The cub's mirror eyes reflected the dim emergency lights. For a moment, Hana forgot to breathe. One swipe of those crystalline claws could kill her, but Click did not swipe. The cub sniffed her face, her hair, her neck. Then it stepped carefully over her and curled up against her side. The warmth of its body pressed against her ribs. Hana could feel its heartbeat, fast and bird-like. She did not dare move. She barely dared breathe. But slowly, carefully, she moved one hand to rest on Click's back. The fur was soft, softer than she expected. Click made a small sound, something between a purr and a sigh, and pressed closer. Hana felt tears slip down her face. All the fear, all the exhaustion, all the desperate hope of the past 10 days came pouring out. Click had chosen to trust her. This creature that the entire galaxy feared had decided she was safe. When morning came, Day knocked on her door with news. Velthor had found out about the cubs. He knew Day had been protecting her. The director was giving Hana 1 week to prove the cubs were not a threat, or they would all be destroyed. No more delays? Hana looked at Click, still sleeping against her side. Purr and Whistle had crept closer during the night, though they had not quite worked up the courage to touch her yet. 1 week to prove that love could tame monsters. 1 week to show the galaxy that it was wrong. We can do this, she told Day. They are already changing. That night, Purr joined Click beside Hana's mat. The two cubs curled up against her warmth, their breathing slow and steady. Whistle watched from under the bed, mirror eyes reflecting the light, but even watching was progress. Even fear that was slowly melting was a kind of trust. Hana pulled her thermal blanket over herself and the two cubs. They did not pull away. They snuggled closer, seeking the warmth and safety that they had lost when their parent was taken. In the darkness of her quarters, surrounded by the creatures the galaxy called monsters, Hana finally allowed herself to hope. Jiwoo Song arrived at the station on the 14th day. She was a cultural liaison, specializing in helping humans adapt to galactic society, but she had requested assignment to the station for a different reason. She had heard about Hana and the cubs, and she wanted to help. The council is watching this, Jiwoo said, sitting in the station's small cafeteria with Hana and Day. Not just Velthor, everyone. Word got out that a human is keeping Valken cubs alive. Half the galaxy thinks you are insane. The other half thinks you are dangerous. Hana stirred her coffee. She had not left her quarters except for necessities in 2 weeks. The cubs did not like being alone. What do you think? I think you are doing something no one else has tried. Jiwoo pulled up files on her datapad. I brought everything I could find about Earth animal behavior. Wolf rehabilitation, lion cubs, bear rescue. Humans have been doing this for centuries. The galaxy does not understand that, Day said. No. They see predator and prey as fixed categories. They cannot imagine that a predator raised with kindness would be different from one raised in violence. Jiwoo swiped through images, but we know better. We know that how you raise a creature matters more than what it is. Hana looked at the images. Wolf cubs playing, lion cubs sleeping in piles, baby bears learning to climb trees. All predators, all capable of killing, but also capable of trust, of play, of love. Show me everything, Hana said. For the next 3 days, Jiwoo taught Hana everything Earth had learned about predator rehabilitation, the importance of play, the need for enrichment, the way social bonds developed through grooming and shared sleep. Hana took notes, asked questions, and applied every lesson to the cubs. She brought toys into her quarters. Simple things, balls that rolled, ropes to tug. At first, the cubs ignored them. But slowly, curiosity won. Click batted at a ball. Purr grabbed a rope in its teeth. Even Whistle crept close enough to sniff a plush toy Jiwoo had replicated. The cubs were growing. In 2 weeks, they had doubled in size. They were still juveniles, but their crystalline claws were longer now, sharper. Their mirror eyes saw everything. They could kill Hana easily if they wanted, but they never showed aggression toward her. When she entered the room, they would chirp in greeting. Click would run to her immediately, pressing its head against her leg. Purr would follow, moving more slowly but just as affectionate. Whistle still kept distance, but even the timid cub had stopped hiding. At night, all three cubs slept beside Hana's mat. They would pile on top of each other, a tangle of fur and legs and tails. Sometimes Click would drape a paw over Hana's arm. Sometimes Purr would use her leg as a pillow. The warmth of their bodies kept her comfortable even though the station was always cold. Then the delegates arrived. The Galactic Scientific Council sent a team to observe Hana's work. 5 species, including a Thoraxian like Velthor, a crystalline being called a Luminar, a tentacled Aquarian, a mammalian feral, and a reptilian Sarek. They wanted to see the Vulcan cubs. They wanted to know how Hana had done the impossible. Some of them think you are using mind control, Jiwoo warned. Others think you drugged the cubs. They do not believe predators can be gentle. The observation was scheduled for the morning. Hana prepared the cubs as best she could. She explained that strangers would come, even though she knew they could not understand her words. But they understood her tone, her body language. They sensed her tension. When the delegates arrived, all 3 cubs immediately went into defensive postures. Whistle hid under the bed. Purr backed into a corner, growling. Click stood in front of Hana, teeth bared, protecting her from the strangers. Remarkable, the Luminar said, its crystalline voice chiming. The predator exhibits protective behavior toward the human. More likely territorial, the Sarek hissed. The human has established dominance. Hana ignored them. She knelt down beside Click and placed a hand on the cub's back. It is okay, she murmured. They are just here to watch. The delegates took notes. They recorded video. They asked questions that made Hana's jaw clench. How did she control them? What chemicals was she using? What neural modifications had been made? None, Hana said firmly. I just treated them with kindness. The Sarek laughed, a sharp barking sound. Kindness does not tame apex predators. Before Hana could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. An automated voice announced a containment breach in the upper science labs. Solar flare activity had disrupted the magnetic shields. All personnel were to evacuate to safe zones immediately. The delegates panicked. The Luminar shattered into fragments in its haste to leave. The Aquarian's tentacles flailed as it rushed for the door. The Sarek trampled over the feral, trying to escape. Within seconds, only Hana remained in the room, and the cubs were terrified. The alarms hurt their sensitive ears. The flashing lights confused them. Whistle was screaming under the bed. Purr was clawing at the walls. Click was frozen in place, eyes wide, body shaking. Hana's heart broke. She had promised they were safe. She had promised nothing would hurt them. But the alarms kept screaming and her cubs were drowning in fear. She ran to her bed and grabbed her thermal blanket. It was the same blanket she used every night, the one that covered them all when they slept in peace. She moved to the center of the room and spread it on the floor. Come here, she called over the noise. Come to me. Click moved first, running to her on shaking legs. Hana pulled the cub close and wrapped the blanket around them both. The fabric was thick enough to muffle the alarms, dark enough to block the flashing lights. You are safe, Hana said. I promise. You are safe. Purr scrambled over, diving under the blanket. Hana held both cubs, creating a shelter with her body. The blanket formed a small dark cave, familiar and warm. Their den. Their safe place. Whistle, Hana called. Come here, baby. Come on. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a small white shape emerged from under the bed. Whistle moved slowly, carefully toward the blanket. When the timid cub reached the edge, Hana lifted the fabric. Whistle crawled inside and pressed against her other side. All 3 cubs safe under the blanket. All 3 hearts beating fast but slowing. All 3 bodies relaxing into the familiar comfort of their den. The alarms continued for another 10 minutes. But under the blanket, wrapped in darkness and warmth and Hana's steady breathing, the cubs were calm. Eventually, they fell asleep, exhausted from fear. When the emergency was over and the delegates returned, they found Hana sitting on the floor with 3 apex predators sleeping peacefully under her blanket. The cubs were completely relaxed, vulnerable, trusting. No one said anything. They just stood there watching the most dangerous predators in the galaxy dream in perfect peace. The image went everywhere. Someone in the delegate team had recorded the moment when Hana sat with the sleeping cubs under her blanket. The video was only 30 seconds long, but it showed everything. 3 Valken cubs, the most feared predators in the galaxy, curled up peacefully while emergency alarms screamed around them, and 1 human, calm and protective, keeping them safe. Within hours, every planet in the Council had seen it. Within a day, it had spread to independent systems. Within a week, it was the most discussed piece of media in galactic history. The reactions were extreme. Some species called it proof that humans were dangerous, that they could control minds and bend predators to their will. Others saw hope, a chance that the violent cycles that had defined galactic life for millennia could be broken. The Council Zhao called an emergency session. They summoned Ambassador Minho Choi, Earth's representative, to explain what the human had done. They wanted to know if this was a weapon. They wanted to know if they should be afraid. Minho arrived at the station first. He met with Hana in her quarters, where the cubs were now comfortable enough to play openly. Click jumped on Minho the moment he entered, sniffing him with intense curiosity. Purr watched from the bed. Whistle peeked out from behind Hana's legs. "They have gotten big," Minho said, scratching Click behind the ear. The cub made a sound like a motor running, a deep rumbling purr. "They are adolescents now," Hana said. "In a few months they will be adults. Fully grown Valken, capable of everything their species is known for. But they are gentle. With me, with people they trust." Hana sat on the floor, and Click immediately climbed into her lap despite being almost too big to fit. "I do not know if they would be gentle with strangers. We have not tested it. The Council will want tests. They will want proof that this is real, that it can be repeated." Minho looked at her seriously. "They will also want to know if this is something all humans can do or just you. It is not special. Any human who worked in animal rehabilitation could do this. We have been doing it on Earth for centuries." Hana ran her hand down Click's back. "The galaxy just never tried. They saw predators and decided they were monsters. They never asked if those monsters could be something else." "Some species in the Council are scared," Minho said quietly. "They are prey species. They have been hunted by predators for their entire history. Seeing a predator become gentle does not give them hope. It terrifies them. Because if humans can tame predators, what else can humans do?" Hana had not considered that. She had been so focused on saving the cubs that she had not thought about the political implications. Earth was new to the galaxy. Humanity was still proving itself, and now she had shown that humans could do something no other species had managed. "What happens at the Council session?" she asked. "You testify. You explain what you did and why. You show them the cubs." Minho smiled slightly. "And you try not to start a galactic incident." The Council met in a massive station at the center of galactic space. Hundreds of species sent representatives. The chamber was enormous, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hana stood on that platform, feeling very small and very human. Minho had arranged for the cubs to be brought to a secure room nearby. Hana had not wanted to separate from them, but they could not come into the Council chamber. Not yet. The questions started immediately. A Sarek representative demanded to know what mind control techniques Hana had used. An Aquarian asked if humans had developed biological weapons. A Feral wanted to know if Earth planned to weaponize predators across the galaxy. Hana answered each question patiently. No mind control. No drugs, no weapons. Just time, consistency, and care. "Impossible," the Sarek hissed. "Predators are violent by nature. They cannot be changed." "They are violent by circumstance," Hana replied. "The cubs were terrified when I found them. They had lost their parent. They were going to be killed. Everything in their world was a threat. So I showed them that not everything is dangerous. I showed them safety. By controlling them," a luminar chimed. "By loving them." The chamber went silent. The translator system struggled with the word. Love was not a concept that translated well across all species. Some understood it as pair bonding, others as parental duty. A few had no word for it at all. "Love is not a strategy," the Sarek said. "It is the only strategy that worked." Hana looked around the chamber. Every species here has tried to control predators with fear, with violence, with containment. Has it ever worked? Are predators less dangerous now than they were 1,000 years ago? No one answered. I tried something different. I asked what they needed instead of what I feared. And they needed the same things all children need: safety, food, comfort, a reason to trust that tomorrow will not hurt them. Hana took a breath. The blanket is not magic. It is just a blanket. But to those cubs, it means safety. It means the den where they sleep without fear. It means that when the world is loud and scary, they have a place where they can rest. An elder counselor spoke up. She was from a prey species, a small furry being called a Kirin. Her voice was soft but carried through the chamber. I lost my grandson to a predator attack, she said. He was 5 years old. The predator was hunted and killed, but it did not bring him back. I have spent 20 years wanting revenge on all predators, wanting them extinct. The chamber was absolutely silent, but I am tired of revenge. I am tired of loss. The Kirin looked at Hana. If there is a way to stop the cycle, if there is a way for predators to exist without killing us, then I want to try, even if it hurts, even if it is hard, because I do not want another grandmother to lose her grandchild. Other counselors began to speak. A Thoraxian whose colony had been destroyed by predators, an Aquarian whose homeworld was still at war with a predator species, a feral whose people had been hunted nearly to extinction. They all had pain. They all had fear, but they were all tired of living in it. Show us the cubs, the head counselor said finally. Let us see what you have done. Hana brought them in. Click, Purr, and Whistle walked beside her on leads, their mirror eyes taking in the enormous chamber. Hundreds of aliens stared at them. The cubs pressed closer to Hana but did not show aggression. Then Hana did something no one expected. She sat down on the platform floor. She pulled her thermal blanket from her bag and spread it beside her. Click lay down immediately, resting its head on her leg. Purr curled up against her back. Whistle, always cautious, circled twice before settling by her feet. Hana covered them all with the blanket. 3 apex predators and 1 human, resting peacefully in front of the entire galaxy. This is what I did, Hana said softly. I gave them a reason to feel safe. And when they felt safe, they stopped being afraid. And when they stopped being afraid, they stopped needing to be dangerous. The silence in the chamber lasted for a long time. Then slowly the Kirin elder began to weep. The council debated for 6 days. Hana stayed in guest quarters near the chamber, the cubs with her. She could hear the arguments through the walls sometimes, voices raised in 100 different languages, all trying to decide if hope was worth the risk. On the 2nd day, a group of prey species tried to have the cubs destroyed. They argued that the cubs were too dangerous to live, that allowing them to grow to adulthood would be a threat to everyone. The motion failed, but only barely. On the 4th day, a coalition of predator species demanded that Hana be arrested for species manipulation. They claimed she had perverted the natural order, that predators were meant to be feared. That motion also failed. On the 6th day, the Kirin elder proposed something new, a rehabilitation program, centers across the galaxy where predator species could be raised with human caretakers, a chance to break the cycle of violence that had defined galactic civilization since the beginning. The debate that followed was the fiercest yet. Species that had been enemies for millennia had to consider working together. Prey species had to imagine trusting predators. Predator species had to imagine being something other than feared. Minho found Hana in her quarters that night. She was lying on the floor with the cubs, all of them tangled together under the thermal blanket. It was their routine now. Every night, no matter where they were, they would make a den and sleep together. The vote is tomorrow, Minho said. It will be close. What happens if they vote no? Then this ends. The cubs will probably be allowed to live, but only because killing them now would cause riots. But there will be no program. No chance for other predators. This will be an anomaly, not a new beginning. Hana looked at Click, who was snoring softly with one paw draped over Purr. They deserve better than that. All of them do. I know. Minho sat down carefully, not wanting to disturb the cubs. But the galaxy is afraid. They have been afraid for so long that they do not know how to stop. Then we teach them. The next day, the council chamber was packed. Every representative was present. Even species that usually sent proxies had come in person. This vote would change everything one way or another. Hana was not allowed in the chamber during the vote. She waited outside with Jiwoo and Day, the cubs resting nearby. The wait felt like forever. She could hear the muffled sounds of speeches, of arguments, of pleas. Finally, the doors opened. Minho emerged, his face unreadable. Then he smiled. It passed. Barely, but it passed. The Galactic Predator Rehabilitation Initiative began with 5 centers, 5 planets, 5 teams of human caretakers, 5 species of predators that had been deemed irredeemable. The program would be monitored closely. Any sign of danger, any hint that the predators were not truly changed, and it would be shut down immediately. Hana was appointed director of the first center, located on a moon near Vulcan territory. She brought the cubs with her, now nearly full-grown but still gentle with those they trusted. They would be ambassadors, proof that the program worked. But first, there was one more thing to do. The adult Vulcan, the parent of the 3 cubs, had been held in isolation since its capture. The council had agreed to one reunion, to see if the cubs' gentleness would influence their parent or if the parent's aggression would undo all of Hana's work. The reunion was scheduled on neutral ground, a reinforced habitat with observation stations all around. Hana was advised to stay behind protective barriers. She refused. "If I do not trust them, why should anyone else?" she said. The adult Vulcan was massive, twice the size of the cubs, with scars across its body from the violent capture. Its mirror eyes locked onto Hana the moment it entered the habitat, and she saw the same fear and rage she had seen in the cubs when she first found them. But then the cubs ran forward. Click reached the adult first, chirping and jumping. Purr followed, rubbing against the adult's legs. Even Whistle approached, moving carefully but without fear. The adult Vulcan stood completely still, its crystalline claws flexed, its body tensed. For a long moment, Hana thought it would attack. Then it lowered its head and touched its nose to Click's forehead, a gesture of recognition, of family. The cubs surrounded their parent, all making sounds of joy and relief. The adult began to relax, the tension draining from its body. It looked at Hana again, but this time without rage. Just curiosity, confusion. This human had kept its children safe. Hana moved slowly toward them. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she kept walking. The adult watched her approach. She stopped a few feet away and sat down on the ground, making herself small and non-threatening. "Your children are safe," she said. "I promise. I will keep them safe." The adult Vulcan stared at her for a long time. Then it did something that made every observer gasp. It lay down. Right there, in front of the human, it made itself vulnerable. The cubs immediately piled on top of their parent, just like they piled on top of Hana every night. And after a moment, the adult looked at Hana and made a sound, low and questioning. Hana understood. She pulled out her thermal blanket, the same one that had sheltered the cubs through storms and alarms and fear. She spread it over all 4 Vulcan, covering them like a den. The adult closed its mirror eyes. For the first time since its capture, it felt safe enough to sleep. Day captured the image on his camera. 4 Vulcan, predators that had terrorized the galaxy for generations, sleeping peacefully under a simple blanket. The image went as viral as the first one. But this time, the galaxy did not respond with fear. They responded with hope. The rehabilitation centers grew. 10 became 20. 20 became 50. Species that had never known peace began to change. Predators raised with human caretakers learned that the world was not something to be feared and fought. Prey species learned that not all predators wanted to hurt them. It was slow. There were failures. Some predators could not be helped, too damaged by their past to accept gentleness. Some prey species refused to participate, their fear too deep to overcome. But there were successes too. More than anyone expected. Predators who became companions instead of threats. Species who learned to coexist instead of just survive. 5 years after that day in the council chamber, Hana stood in the center she directed. Around her, 20 Vulcan cubs played in a habitat designed to feel like home. Human caretakers moved among them, offering food and comfort and safety. The cubs were learning that the world could be kind. Jiwoo visited often, documenting the program for the galaxy. Dae had taken a position at another center, working with a different predator species. Minyo had been promoted to senior ambassador, representing Earth's growing influence in the council. And the adult Vulcan, the parent who had learned to trust again, stayed at the center. It helped raise the new cubs, teaching them the ways of their species while Hana taught them the ways of peace. That night, Hana followed her usual routine. She laid her sleeping mat on the floor of the habitat. Click, Purr, and Whistle, now fully grown, lay down beside her. The adult Vulcan settled nearby, watching over its family. Hana pulled out her thermal blanket. It was old now, patched in several places, faded from years of use. But it still did its job. She spread it over herself and the Vulcan around her. The adult draped one massive paw over her, gentle despite the deadly claws. The cubs snuggled closer, their breathing slowing into the rhythm of sleep. Above them, through the transparent dome of the habitat, the stars shone bright. Somewhere in those stars, 50 rehabilitation centers were doing the same thing. Humans and predators, learning to trust each other, building something the galaxy had never seen before. In a universe that had forgotten how to rest, humanity had taught the predators to dream. And in teaching them to dream, had given the whole galaxy a chance to imagine a different future, a future where monsters were just children who needed a blanket, and someone who cared enough to tuck them in. Hana closed her eyes, warm and safe beneath the weight of creatures that had once been feared above all others. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, surrounded by predators who had learned that the world could be gentle, she let herself believe that they had already won.